and welcome back to another CAPS video. My name is Surya and I'm a grade 12 student studying in Toronto. Today we'll be talking about the double degree program at Waterloo and Wilfrid Laurier about computer science and business. Today we have a current undergraduate student to tell us more about it. Can you introduce yourself?
So my name's Hannah. I'm in third year of the program right now, and I live in Toronto. I'm in Toronto right now because of the whole online format.
So can you tell us what it's like being a student with the double degree program? How are the campuses? How is the program in general?
So just for a little bit of context, when you're in this program, you're a student at both universities. So you get student cards for both universities, student numbers. From their perspective, you're just a student at that one university. So you really get the experience from going to both. You would do your business classes at Laurier and then your computer science classes at Waterloo. And there's also a math program that's similar to this, and you would do your math program there too. So it's really great because that means you get access to all of the clubs and events and people at both of these universities, which I really enjoy. It gives you a different perspective. In terms of the differences between the two universities, I would say Waterloo is very academically focused, and you meet a lot of like-minded people who are focused on bettering themselves, which is a really great environment to be in and learning a lot. And then at Laurier, the environment also I really love. I was on res at Laurier. It's a smaller campus, really tight-knit community, and you really you get to know everyone, which sounds crazy for a university, but you would be surprised how many times you say oh wow, it's a small world, and just doing clubs and stuff. So really great that you get to access both. Yeah, I love it. That's one of the aspects I really love.
So I guess that's one of the reasons why you would choose the double degree program over the other universities you applied to?
Yeah, so one of the factors was definitely that I wanted to kind of have both experiences, and I really wanted to go to a university/college town. I wanted that experience away from home and being on my own for a little bit. I was in a position where that was something that I could do, so I really wanted to take advantage of it. And then it really boiled down to I could not pick between computer science and business. I just loved both, and I thought, why would I pick in grade 12 when I can just do both? And I love the way that your courses have two different thinking styles. You're not doing the same thing the whole time. You're really mixing it up. And I wouldn't change it. I think I made the right decisions. A lot of times students will think, you know what, I like one more than the other, and that's okay. But I've definitely stuck with the I love both, could not pick.
Do you think that for people coming into this program, it would be better if they have an interest for both programs, or should they have just a slight interest or committed interest to both?
So I think the people that really enjoy this program really like both. And you don't necessarily have to know that coming out of high school. I know that, some schools don't have computer science programs, and so you don't have as much exposure to that. But, once you get into the program, having that love is really what will help you succeed, because all of the courses you take are either business or computer science. You don't have electives earlier on. So if you don't like business and you don't like computer science, or one or the other, then it's just not going to be a great experience. And I think that that's in a point where you got to reevaluate and think, is this something that I love? Because you want to make sure that you're doing a university program that you like. I think that's super important. And so it can be hard in grade 12 to know it, but I think once you get into the program, if you love both, you're going to be okay.
Great. So could you talk more about the application process, how both universities would come up?
So the kind of benefit of this program is you get two shots at it. So you can apply through Laurier or you can apply through Waterloo. You get more than one chance, which is very different than most programs. In terms of what grades they look at, I don't believe they do early acceptance. I think that it's really, they look at your first semester grades and then they look at the first half of your second semester grades. So that's a little different than some programs as well. Waterloo has their AIF, which is their supplementary essay form, where they have really, really short, I don't know the exact character count, but short essays, just why do you want to go here? What are your extracurriculars? That sort of thing. And then Laurier has an optional one about your extracurriculars. I did it. I would recommend doing it. I don't think it hurts you. It takes a little bit more time on like the front end, yes, but I think that it can only benefit and add to your application. So 100% would recommend doing that. And then in terms of kind of what they're looking for, I wish I could tell you, not on the admissions board, but I really think, at least in my opinion, they're looking for a well-rounded student. They're looking for someone who has shown leadership ability, interests in things. It doesn't necessarily have to be computer science, like just passion for stuff and a drive is what I would say they're trying to look for. So that is kind of what you want to portray, in my opinion, at least.
For the extracurriculars, is it better to focus on more business related or more computer science?
I don't know if one is better over the other. I think it's good to show that you have that interest. So like I did DECA, which is a business competition in high school. And that was just like something that I had on the business side. And then I also did the robotics team at my school. So that's kind of the computer science side. I know people who didn't have a lot of exposure to computer science who were in the program. So I wouldn't say you need one over the other. It's always good to have extracurriculars and show that kind of interest, but I don't know if it's a deal breaker. Again, I can't say for sure. I only know off of my application, but I would say, as long as you're doing something you love and you're passionate about, they can really sense that even in your essays. And so I think that's what's super important as well.
Great. So could you talk more about the course load and how much work you have and how you manage your time?
So course load's a tricky thing because it varies, right? When you have midterms, one of the things about university is your midterms, they happen while you also have your classes and you have your regular assignments, as opposed to, at least in my high school, where exams were just, at the end, you had nothing else. And so those periods are a little bit more busy. And then, at the beginning of the semester, you'll have less work. I also think that people take like the same courses, they'll find it as different course loads. I would say in general, because you're taking only core courses, it is on the heavier side because you don't have electives to offset, any of the busy core courses. So if you have your 3 business courses, you can't take 2 electives, at least early on in the degree, to try to lighten that load. So I would say that's where the heaviness would come, but it depends on the person. You take 5 courses every semester, and then you have the option of taking 6 courses twice, which is a little bit different. That's overloading, and I don't think many programs do that, but why that happens is there's not enough slots to get all the courses required to make both degrees. But you don't have to. You can take a course over co-op. Lots of students that have done it. I do it. I've done it twice. You can really balance it out and figure out what works best for you. You don't have to do it exactly how they recommend. There are ways that you can lighten the course load and figure things out that work best for you, which is really great. Oh, and then in the online format, a little bit of how that is kind of working. I don't know how familiar you would be with that, but basically we have Zoom lectures and some of them are pre-recorded. And so the challenge is that when you don't have a set schedule, it's just watch this lecture anytime, there's not a lot of structure. So kind of what I do to try to combat that is at the beginning of the semester, I looked at what courses were Zoom lectures. So those are set, I go to those. And then the ones that weren't, I prefer at the beginning of the week, I just set aside some time, put it out in my Google Calendar, just this is when I'm doing this course. And so then when I know, this is when I watch the lectures, and it provides a little bit more structure. And then the other thing that I kind of find is that at least in my experience, I don't know if this is universal, but I find there's a lot more little deadlines as opposed to bigger assignments. So like my midterm and finals got split up into 4 exams throughout the semester. It's a lot more deadlines, less on each, but more overall. So I think that managing that is kind of what I've learned to do. So what I like to use is it's an app called Notion. It's like a workspace app, and you can use an agenda, you can use Google Calendar, like however you would like best. But I like Notion because I have a daily agenda where I just write down what I want to accomplish that day. And then at the beginning of the week, I also write down everything I want to accomplish that week. So, every night I'm kind of deciding what to do the next day, not planning out my week in advance because, things come up and it allows for a little bit more flexibility, but it also lets me keep on top of everything, which is, I think, the key to online format. And you know what, just university in general. So yeah, I would say that is kind of my take on the online format and what I do to try to make it a little bit more manageable.
That's great. Can you talk about some opportunities that double degree students can take advantage of?
So I talked a little bit before about how you get to be students at both universities. So that's 100% something I think you should take advantage of. It allows you to have clubs that you would not otherwise have access to events, networking events, for example, that, wouldn't be available to just a student at Laurier or vice versa. So taking advantage of those, I think, is really beneficial. And then I also think something that's really cool and unique to the double degree program is there's actually a double degree club that all students are automatically registered into. You don't have to do anything, you're just in it. And they host a lot of events for double degree students. Like they have networking events, you get to meet a lot of people. And one specific thing I kind of wanted to highlight was they have a mentorship program. So I did that in my first year, and you get matched with a mentor, so an upper year in double degree. And that was so helpful. Like I can't even tell you how helpful that was, because I had someone who I could message and who had gone through the courses that I had gone through and gone through the similar experiences that were, unique to the double degree program. And I was able to just text her and ask her questions about things. And she was super helpful with my transition. So out of everything, I would say doing that is the most beneficial thing you should take advantage of.
Scaling off of that, how is the social aspect? Was it easy to make friends?
Yeah, the universities do a lot of things to try to make sure that you are able to meet lots of people, especially in first year. So there's orientation weeks for both universities and lots of clubs, and it's not difficult to get involved. There's a club fair at the beginning of the year, so they really make sure that you're aware of it. And not so much now during the pandemic, depending on if you actually are going to be in res, but just in res and going to the dining hall, you meet a lot of people through there, and in your lectures as well. I would say, in general, in first year, I think everyone's kind of looking for a friend, right? In my experience, most of my friends were going to other universities, my close friends that I, spent most of my time with. So I didn't really know anyone, only a couple people. And I think a lot of people are in that situation as well. Your whole high school doesn't go with you and your whole friend group doesn't go with you. So I think keeping that in mind, that everyone is looking to find friends as well, is a good mindset. So I would say overall, there's lots of opportunities. The social aspect's really great. You're in a university in college town. So there's lots to do, and it's a fun time.
One thing, Waterloo is known for being very academically focused. So was it easy to make friends over there compared to Laurier?
Yeah, so I was Laurier based, which is another thing about the program. Depending on which offer you accept, that's where you do your co-op placement, and that's where you live on res. So because I was Laurier based in first year, I just naturally was at Laurier more in res, dining hall. So that was kind of came naturally. On the Waterloo side, I got to meet a lot of people through the program, which is maybe another thing I should have mentioned. You are kind of, I don't know how many people they accept now, but you're 100 people within your program you have all your classes with. So that's just a really great way to meet people specific to this program. I have so many friends that I met in my first day of lectures, and we sat beside. And then just in Waterloo in general, I've met people in lectures, in projects. Some of the computer science classes have a CS project where, we met people there, and they have clubs as well. So even though it's a very academically focused university, there's still lots of opportunities to meet people, and they have just as many clubs as Laurier. So even if you weren't going in the double degree program, I think you would be okay if you take that initiative and go to these events.
Now on to co-op. Can you talk about the process of finding co-op, and since it's required, how are your past co-op terms?
So as I mentioned before, I did the co-op program through Laurier, so I can speak in a lot more detail to that. I do know that it's very similar at Waterloo. They use the same system. I think there's a little bit more just differences with the requirements, but more what I'm going off of is my experience through the Laurier system. And how it kind of works is you get access to the co-op site, which has a listings of jobs. Then you apply to them, you get interviews. When you do your interviews, so you do your interviews and you're all good. It works kind of like a normal job application process would be, and you can also apply externally. That's how I got my first co-op term. So it's not necessarily through the program, but once you've done your interviews, you rank all the companies that you interviewed with and they rank you. And then when you guys get the lowest score possible, you match. So a 1 is an automatic match, a 2 is another match. If that made no sense, they go over it in like very heavy detail. They also do resume critiques and they do workshops about how do you do interviews? What do you do in the workforce? So they provide lots of support there, but that's more what the co-op process is like. It's very similar at Waterloo as well. In terms of my past co-op terms, they were absolutely amazing experiences. I've done only one, so I've completed one co-op term, and I have a next one in the winter. And then in my first year, Waterloo students complete a co-op term over that summer, and then Laurier students get basically a summer off, and most students will either go to school and do extra courses to get ahead, or they'll work and find their job externally. So I worked at the same company, Relay Ventures, and it was an amazing experience. I think it allowed me to grow a lot. I learned a lot, and overall was super beneficial. So I would recommend, even if you are not doing the double degree program, I think that co-op is so beneficial. If you can get a program with co-op, I think it teaches you so many skills and you would be surprised. Like, I think I grew a lot. I learned so much. I think that's the goal of co-op. It's how can you take these experiences, learn as much as possible, and take as many skills away from it. And so I think if you go with that mindset again, you're going to get the most out of the co-op program.
And Waterloo is known for having a very hard co-op program to get into. So is it harder to be Waterloo based?
I don't know if it's harder. I think it's different. So I think naturally the Waterloo system has more tech jobs. Laurier has a lot of access to the big 5 accounting firms and to a lot of business because of their BBA program. And then Waterloo has a lot of connections to the Valley, like Silicon Valley. And so I think you're just getting some natural differences there. And the Waterloo program is bigger. There's just more people. So there are more jobs, but there are also more people applying, which I think is where you get a little bit of this idea that it's super, super difficult. Again, have not gone through it, so I can't say if it's like super hard or not, or if it's harder than Laurier's. I think they both have different strengths and they both have different weaknesses. And so it's hard to compare the two, but yeah, again, you can find business job at Waterloo and you can find computer science jobs at Laurier. So you're good on either system. You'll be okay.
So those are all the questions that we prepared for you. Is there anything that you would want to share with the high schoolers watching?
Yeah, I guess kind of the biggest advice that I've gotten, even from people who have graduated from university or college or whatever route they took, is just university can be the best time of your life and you need to make sure that you enjoy it and you take advantage of it. So that's joining clubs, going out to make friends, and really walking that balance between your grades, which are super important, but also not forgetting that there's nothing else in life like university. There's nothing else structured like that. If you're going away, it's not going to be like that. And so I would really say taking advantage of clubs and all of the different events that the university hosts. When I look back on my last few years, I think about the clubs that I joined and the friends that I've met through these clubs. And I think that's kind of what you're going to look back on as well. And just to kind of remember that for a lot of people, it's inevitable that they're going to get a bad grade or whatever they consider a bad grade. And I think remembering that one bad grade, one course grade that isn't where you want it doesn't define you. Believe me, I know it feels like the end of the world, but it's not. It just indicates that you need to utilize all of the support that the university has, going to office hours, going to the tutorial center at Waterloo, which is something that they have for math and computer science courses for first years, which I know people told me to do in my first year, and I don't think I used as much as I should have. So yeah, now I'm here telling people to do it too, but I think that using those resources, taking any grade that is not where you want and thinking, how can I learn from it? How can I improve myself is good to kind of make your university experience the best possible. That's the advice that I usually get. So I just figured I might as well pass it along.
All right, thank you so much, Hannah, for speaking with us today and sharing your experiences. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below or message us through our social media accounts, and we will definitely be able to answer them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in another CAPS video.